Welcome to the Creative Chats Podcast with Mike Brennan. Well, welcome, friends, to another episode of Creative Chats. It's the podcast for artists, makers, and content creators where we talk about creativity, the creative process, and story. I'm your host, Mike Brennan. You can connect with me over on my website, which is mikebrennan.me, or I'm also on Instagram at MikeBone. Now, I love creating all sorts of resources to help you win as a creative person. It is really my passion, honestly, because I know what creativity has done for my life. When I've had it, when I haven't, struggling through it, the process of creating, and also being able to create something and see somebody else's life impacted, not just my own. Those are all things that continually are part of my creative journey. And so I've created resources to help you show up for your creativity more consistently. You can go to dailycreativehabit.com and you'll see a host of resources there. Some are free, some are paid. I just love being able to equip you with some things that can help you, some tools, and surround you with some community. Because sometimes being a creator gets lonely. And we go in our cave and we do our thing, and it's such a solitary act most of the time that we forget that there are other people who are experiencing some of the same things we are and maybe have some of the same questions. So if this is speaking to you, I would love to invite you to check out the free Facebook group for Daily Creative Habit and get on my email newsletter list. I send out once a week on Mondays. It is packed with some inspiration and some creative prompts if you're looking for some new things to try. And it's also a way for us just to stay connected. So you can find that over on my website as well, mikebrennan.me. Now, for today's episode, I sit down with Shazad Carbaidwala, and man, we have a heart-to-heart conversation about what does it look like to take the experiences of your life and create things out of those experiences. He talks a lot about the importance of mentorship and coaching, those roles that have had in his life that have really impacted him and the work that he does today. And Shazad has written 2 books, and we talk about those books and his process and why he wrote those books. The latter being a children's book that he actually created with his daughter. And so I just love the conversation today. I think you'll be really encouraged and motivated and find some inspiration too. So without further ado, here is my creative chat with Shazad Carbaidwala. Well, Shazad, welcome to the Creative Chats podcast. Thanks for being here today.
Absolutely. My pleasure. Thanks for having me, Mike.
I'm excited to talk about all the things that you have going on in your world. And I know that you are somebody who you've just had a wealth of experience and you've done a bunch of things. And so I'm wondering, as a starting point, let's say you're at a party and you're being introduced to people, or you're kind of doing the usual, hey, how are you? And someone comes up to you and says, hey, who are you? What do you do? What is your go-to answer for that?
Yeah, great question. Great question. I've never been asked that question before. I'll just introduce myself. I'm Shazad Carbaidwala. I'm a normal human being. I just dabble in quite a few things, based on my life experiences and things like that. I've always talked about my brand is always to help people in any capacity. That's always, and taking pride in everything that I do. That's something that I just kind of, I live by, because that mantra was much different to me when I was younger, growing up and things like that. So now I've changed my philosophy quite a bit. So sorry, a long answer, but that's
no, that's fine. I would imagine, and correct me if I'm wrong, but essentially you've created a personal brand that encompasses things that are important to you and things that are based out of your experiences. And so it seems to me like you experience something and then you create something around that in order to help some other people, and probably also for you to have a way to give meaning and context for yourself in the midst of that too. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a phenomenal way of putting it. I feel like we all bring a lot of different traits in this world based on circumstances and experiences. Some circumstances are good, some are bad. But we all have things that have happened in our lives. We all lived a journey. We all have chapters in our life book. And my philosophy now versus what it used to be was, share my philosophy with others and see if it could help in any capacity, help them in any ways. Because we all struggle with inner demons, right? And, we need that support to get through our daily life of the different things that we want to accomplish, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Fulfill, life fulfillment,
Exactly.
things like that. So it took me a long time to figure that out. What life fulfillment meant for me. It took me classes and speaking to some highly skilled PhDs and professors and people that really tapped into and really asked me thought-provoking questions for me to actually kind of figure that out. So
Yeah.
I've gotten a lot of help in my journey to where I am today. I offer that to everybody else,
Yeah.
in whatever ways I can.
I love that. Love that. Speaking specifically into creativity, I would love to know, like, what is your earliest memory tied to creativity? Like, was it making a certain thing, engaging in a certain activity? What comes to mind when I ask you that?
Yeah. And like another question, man, that no one's ever asked me before. So this is awesome. Growing up, I was a huge WWF fan. WWF at the time, now it's WWE wrestling. A huge fan. Wanted to go to all the shows. Always watch, primetime wrestling. Always watched, and I couldn't wait till Saturday night if Saturday night main event was on. I don't even remember those days. The Hulk Hogan era.
Oh yeah.
Iron Sheik, Nikolai Volkov, all those wrestlers back in the 80s. Growing up, I asked for the action figures for Christmas. I would always ask for that type of stuff. And for the longest time, I was always asking for a WWF wrestling ring. They had made a ring from, I think the brand was Mattel, and could never find it or could never afford it growing up. And my mom finally brought one home, and I got the wrestling figures, and I would spend hours in my room playing around with those figures, doing tag team matches like battle royals, and I accumulated so many action figures. I think I almost got up to like 20 or 30, and I would spend a lot of time making creative matches, with whatever things that I had in my room. And so that's probably when my imagination into creativity actually started.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny. I love asking that question because so often we can trace back to a certain time like that reflects even in what we do today. Obviously, you're not playing with wrestling action figures right now, or maybe you are. I don't know. No judgment. But there's something about engaging that part of you that's like, okay, here are some tools, some resources. Now, what can I do with these? What are the possibilities that are before me? And what happens if I take this and put them together? And what happens if I have this scenario happen? And so I think that curiosity, that imagination can still be tapped into, and it's just applied in different arenas, if you will. And so would you say that that has been something that you've seen as you've developed and created things and pivoted through things? Has that been like a conscious thing, or you think it's just kind of like that's part of who you are and maybe how you show up?
I think it's just a conscious thing. The things that I tap into, the different things that I want to accomplish, are based on really my background in athletics, because I was always taught, outside of the creativity piece of it, always taught that always finish what you start and always complete what you say you're going to complete. Choice phrases, actions speak louder than words, talk is cheap. Those type of things. Take pride in everything that you do. Those type of things I've always held. I know that some of them may sound your fortune cookie-esque, but those things I've always held to myself at a high standard, and make sure that I say I'm going to do something, make sure that I do it. Because preserving my legacy and my dad's legacy is very, very important to me. My dad passed away back in 2009 and helped a lot of people along the way. Because he always did what he said he was going to do, and I want to follow that same approach in life and philosophy.
Yeah. Yeah. So when you're starting out, what is take us through your journey a little bit? Like, what is you're the kid, with the wrestling figures, right? Doing that. Fast forward through you're like, okay, it's career time or it's decision time of like, what are you going to do with your life? The first time you're wrestling with that, like, what does that look like for you, and what's going through your head?
Yeah, so like with me, I'm pretty spiritual. So always praying, always asking, God for guidance on what the path for success for me is, and what was and is at all times. So growing up, sports was a very big very big in my life. Former collegiate athlete, played football for a long time, 12 years, but did a lot of other sports as well. And learned a lot of dedication and discipline through those channels of sports. It became a bodybuilder for 6 years and finally obtained a professional card back in 2009. And through that journey, I did a lot of self-reflection because there was a lot of times like when I was by myself. Imagine, being a bodybuilder, you spend a lot of time in the gym. A lot of the time looking at yourself and making sure that you look the right way, taking in the right foods, you're taking in the right supplements. But that's a lot of that. A lot of that journey was I had a team around me that were helping me, but a lot of that journey was by myself. So, but what, and I always bring up athletics because what I learned through that was no one's going to help you. You have to figure out your own path. And there was a lot of times during my athletic journey when I was like, oh my God, I'm not going to make it through going up, blacking out. Those are physical tests, but those are mental tests too. How are you going to make it through those difficult times in a really difficult workout? You have a pulled muscle, you have a broken bone, you have a nagging injury that you're dealing with. Those are all adverse situations, and you could use that in life as well.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I did. So growing up, athletics was a big component of my life. Moving around quite a bit was big as well. Family, and we weren't wealthy by any means. Start off in Chicago, living in my siblings and I, we shared our own one room, so things like that. We dealt with some adverse situations growing up, and that's what helped me to now when I deal with adverse situations now to be able to mitigate them and tackle tasks, a lot of velocity and make sure that whatever I say I'm going to do, I end up doing it. And I put a lot of emphasis on that, and also making sure that I plan everything accordingly, keep myself accountable.
Yeah. Yeah. I know that you've mentioned that like mentorship and coaching is a big part of your world and has an impact on you. What is it about mentorship that really made the most difference for you? Like was there an experience that you had early on that told you like this is something that I need to keep before me and then also be engaged with?
Yeah, I received some tough coaching, man. Tough coaching. I mean, mentorship and coaching are a little bit different, but for me, coaching, through going through athletics, I had coaches my whole life, so, and I had some tough ones. And, starting playing football in third grade, I had a very, very militant coach that kept me accountable to what I did. And if I didn't do it, I was punished. And it was very military. Experiencing that and growing up through that, it got me really tough skin to pursue things and make sure that if I'm tackling something, if I'm doing something, I pursue it and make sure that it gets done. So that started off at a very early age. I mean, I can't tell you how much sports has helped me throughout my life journey. If I didn't have it, I would have looked for it somewhere else, but who knows where that somewhere else could have been, right? So sports helped me channel my aggression the right way.
I know that when I've spoken to other athletes, there gets a certain point at which obviously the older you get, and especially if there's injuries involved or things of that nature, people have to start thinking about what's next, what's beyond this. And was there an experience that you had where you were thinking that of going like, okay, you're in the midst of it, or you're thinking, okay, this is going to evolve into something else, and what is that something else that happens, and wrestling with that kind of handoff in life? Like, did you have that moment?
Dad passed away, bodybuilding career ended, got married, had a kid, big life changes. Finding out what really is meaningful to me versus what is something that I'm doing um, just to maybe check the box, or maybe might for others. During my athletic venture, I don't think I've maybe kept in touch with a handful of people, but during that time, I had a mass amount of people follow, around me and things like that, and that didn't materialize into much meaningful relationships. So now I live in a different way where is I don't need relationships to help me create happiness in life. It's the things that accomplishments and the things that I want to get out of my life. Those are the main things that maintain my happiness.
Yeah. And so I know that you've written several books, right? How many? Is it 4 or is it 2? Okay, sorry. So tell me a little bit about your thoughts on writing. Like, where was this something you've always wanted to do, and then you finally were like, okay, I'm just going to sit down and do this already? Or like, what was your process in approaching? I have an idea for this book, and now I want to make this a reality.
Yes, so back in 2004, I wanted to write something. I've never been a good writer. And I'm like, I'm going to challenge myself. I'm going to see if I can write a book. So I just got on my desktop computer and started writing. I had about 40 pages in. The story was going to be the life of a bodybuilder. Just completed my first competition. Sorry, this is not 2004. Yeah, 2004. And didn't have a lot of depth to it. Took kind of like a Hail Mary and see how far I could get. Well, see how far I could get. Well, I didn't get very far, but I got 40 pages in and my desktop got cleared and it vanished. So stopped writing for a number of years. And then I started the journey again, and something told me, like I mentioned before, I'm very spiritual, but like something told me, like a higher power told me, you know what? Share your story. It could mean something. It could mean something to others. So I started writing again, and lo and behold, I got 360 pages in, dwindled it down to 250, years and years and years of just writing and writing and editing and formatting. I mean, it was a process, Mike. I'm telling you. It's interesting because you're writing a book, but you're writing a book a lot about yourself. You start running out of ideas, and then you start thinking. You doing a lot of self reflection about thinking about your past, and then you revisit things that have happened in your life, good and bad. And I used to carry around one of those little small notebooks with a pen, and every time I thought of something, I'm like, I didn't want to forget it. Whether I was in the car or riding a bike or running, I'll write it down. Like, I got to talk about this in the book. So it ended up materializing in 2021, January 2021, and I clicked the button to publish it, and um, it's been great. All the money, the proceeds from the book go to charity, so I'm super ecstatic about it. It is, in my eyes, I'm very proud that I was able to get it done because it was a long, long undertaking in a process. Because it was the first time I was going through that process. I dove right in. I didn't dip my toes in the water. I just dove right in and got people that I really care about involved in the process and give me good insights and carefully put together the book. And now it's published.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Were there moments in there where you wrestled with kind of imposter syndrome, going like, okay, I'm going to write this book, but who am I to write a book? Or, am I a writer? Or those kind of questions. How did you deal with that?
Yeah. Who am I to write a book? When you think about like writing a book, oh, it must be, especially if it's like a lot of information about yourself, like almost like an autobiography. I'm not a celebrity. I'm not, you know, this political figure or in this media spotlight or anything like that. So who am I to write? Who's going to read it? Um, yeah, dealing with that. But you know what? I said, look, this is a goal of mine to get this. So there's there's a goal, and I want to address the goal, and I want to live by my mantra, which is saying, whatever I say, accomplish it. So I pursued it and blocked those things to the side and just put it out there. And then people could formulate their judgment based on the book or speaking with me and things like that. So I know opening up the skeletons in my closet would elicit a lot of people hopefully coming to me and asking me questions, which is great because that was for me, but essentially it was being my life brand, which was helping people. So one has had the same struggles as me. We could talk about that, and that's exactly what's happened, Mike. It's been I'm so happy with the product in itself and the aftermath of Row, which is the title of the book.
Yeah. Is there maybe a story or experience that you can think of that you can share with us that might be an indicator of like an impact that the book had on somebody or a connection that was made?
Yeah, a lot of things like, for example, prison. You know, the book takes place in San Quentin prison, and it's a journey of someone that is 2 weeks away from getting executed, living on death row, and each day, the person in prison is writing a daily jail journal. So it's present and then it goes in the past too. The past is about my journey. So each chapter has my journey and the gentleman that's in prison. And the whole story is tied to a metaphor of what my life could have become if I kept going down the path that I was going, and then we talk more into that. But, going back, it was very therapeutic for myself. The moment of when we tie that back into the prison of the premise of where the story took place, now I go to different prisons in North America and do talks and speak to inmates and speak to the Bureau of Prisons and speak to other government officials of seeing how people that are living on the outside could help the people that are incarcerated. And it's been such an amazing experience. Now I sit on the board of prisoner visitation and support, and we have a cast of that organization encompasses over 250 visitors that go around North America and visit different institutions and speak to different inmates and stuff like that. So it's really, really cool.
Do you think that, of course, this speculation, right? And there's only so much that you can know beyond what has happened, but do you think that would have been the case had you not written the book?
I don't think it would have been. Yeah, that's like it's almost like a college degree, right? When recruiters are looking at prospects into the organization that they're recruiting for, they check the box, right? And that just the role almost checked the box. It gave me more validity. It's like, I speak to a broad band of inmates, right? You're speaking to them. They're almost in the beginning. I've been with the organization for almost 10 years now, prisoner visitation support. In the beginning, it was almost like I felt. Maybe the inmates didn't feel, but I felt like, who am I speaking to them, right? But we shared a connection and experiences and things like that. I think the book put a lot of validation.
Yeah, I know that becomes a tool that can open doors and opportunities and make connections where perhaps it wouldn't have happened otherwise. I've experienced the same thing, so I know exactly what you're referring to. In terms of like even just more practical things of like the process, you wrote the book. Did you decide upon? I'm assuming self-publishing. That's the route that you went.
That's the route I went.
Okay. Was that intentional? Did you consider trying to seek traditional publication, or it was just kind of like, what was your end goal? Like, I need to get this out there as quickly as possible and kind of have control, or was it more of like, hey, if I do go the route of traditional publishing, there's a whole set of other parameters I have to deal with there?
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, like when I say like I jumped right in head first, didn't dip my toes. I did try to go the publishing route, put a couple feelers out there, but then I didn't even know self-publishing was an option. So then I found out self-publishing was an option, and the beauty of self-publishing, you have so much more control,
Yeah.
so much more control, and I love that piece about it. And having that control, that ownership of the product that I put out there into the world that took me 15, 16, 17 years, whatever it took. It's crazy amount of time. I have control. If I say it's coming off the shelf, it's going to come off the shelf. I have control of it. It's a great, great feeling because I put my blood, sweat, and tears in that book, man. I really did. Having that ownership versus and I'm not sure, like some public publishing houses, they may be different the way they operate and things like that. I want that. I need that ownership, man. It's my body of work, and I need to know that it's see how it's getting out there into the world. So yeah, it's been a great journey. I'm so happy about it.
Yeah. And that is you make a good point of ownership over your own material and even copyright things.
Yeah.
Someone who is maybe listening and thinking about writing a book and thinking about, is it traditional publishing? Is it self-publishing? There is certainly an education that needs to happen in understanding not only the process, but also what you might be agreeing to and what ownership you need to have in the process. Meaning, I've heard it that you have to do just as much hustling on promoting your book, whether it's the self-published route or even traditional publishing. Now, they may have different resources and different budgets that they allot, but at the end of the day, it's still you and what you create. And you cannot transfer that ownership over to somebody else where it's like, oh, you just deal with this. You just, I don't know. I wrote the thing. Now you go and take care of me getting it out there. And because no one's going to be as big a cheerleader for the project than you, because it came out of you. It's yours. It's your story, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, when one thing that I didn't take into account is when the book is done, all the other stuff that goes into it, the marketing of it, and that is a huge, huge task, right? The self promotion, promoting. You got to do that. You got to get out there. You got to, what I call it, is hit the streets and make sure you promote it. And once you do, and you bring self awareness behind the mission of the book, then people will they wrap their heads around it and they will put themselves immersed in your life journey, which is exactly that's what's happened. And like I didn't know that was going to happen. Honestly, I was kind of like, what's going to be the end game when this book goes out, And it got released in 2021. We're still talking about it. It's great things. I've done author talks, gone to different prisons and talked about it. I talked about it stages in my life of motivational speaking and things like that. So it's done exactly what I wanted to do, because at the end of the day, people buy it and it goes to charity of people that are struggling and need a little bit of support. So it's good.
Yeah. Yeah. Love that. And then you decided you want to do a children's book. Where, like, how did that fit into?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh man, I have a girl. I'm so connected with her. She's the apple of my eye, like most kids are for their parents. I feel like I have a special connection because she saved me in a lot of different ways. Just, I just wanted to do something for her and have that for her. It's great. It just got like published. My God, it's been like a month, and it's just about a book, and it's got the beauty of that book is it's got so much symbolism that it's pretty incredible. Sorry, my life was wonderful, but it's got so much symbolism to my family lineage. My late father, Muggle Bakery, the title of the book was a bakery that he owned. So it talks about my family, my siblings, their kids, my mom, So a lot of cool features, places that I lived in the past, places that I live now, some of the foods that she loves and eats and things. I mean, it's got so much in-depth symbolism. So this is there now, like when she gets older, my daddy and me made a book. It's
Yeah.
been, it's cool. It's really
Yeah.
very happy about that.
How was the process compared to your previous book, right?
Oh my,
Obviously, when you're writing a children's book, you need a whole different set of parameters and lenses to put on. How did you approach that? Because there's probably so many different ways that you could go about it. Like, what was your specific thought in going, okay, I'm going to make this children's book. Here's the material that I'm working with, the things you just mentioned. What happens next?
well, think about role, right? What is role? There's people that told me that I was trying to get a focus group in place, Mike, for Row. I had two focus groups. I talked to people who read a few chapters of Row and they're like, hey, this is too dark for us. I can't do this. A bunch of people. They're like, no, this is hard. So I got away from that. So if you think about Row and then you think about a children's book, completely different spectrum. So like Row made me think about some very inner demons that I had in my past. And then thinking about them, because right, we want to move to the future as people. We don't want to think about our past. And then writing them down for the masses and publishing it for everyone to read was difficult. I had to do a lot of soul searching. I had to talk to a lot of my mentors and coaches and people that I asked for support, the servant leaders that I asked for support. So that was hard. That was really hard. And that's probably why the book took as long as it did because I had to take some steps back and just self-reflect and stop writing. The children's book is a much different approach, man. Much happier, much, getting input from my daughter. She's got passages in the book. She's got an illustration that's in the book. So it's like a lot of creativity went in the book with the illustrations. It was cool because there's illustrations in the book throughout the entire book. So I mean, completely.
Yeah. In terms of the illustrations, was it someone that you knew, or was this a process of you going like, how do I find illustrators to then bring my story to life? What did that look like?
Yeah, so I had an illustration team, a great illustrator that I was working with, amazing to work with because I'm pretty strict. I'm not the easiest to work with. I'll say that myself, especially when you're publishing a book that's got my name on it and that involves a lot of my family members and my daughter is a focal point. Oof, so the illustration team took it on, and we had a group. We updated that thing so many times. Illustrations of I need this there, I need that, change this, change that. So yeah, that was very iterative. I mean, it probably went over 100 iterations of changing this, changing that. I mean, so that's something that I didn't take into account, right? Because Roe didn't have any illustrations. If you talk about a children's book that's filled with illustrations, it's like, what does that process look like?
Yeah.
So that's fun.
Yeah.
It was all fun.
And also the fact that you're co-creating with people, then it's not simply you sitting down doing your thing and then going, okay, I've made this, now I'm going to publish this, and it's more a solitary act. Something like that, the children's book, because it's illustrators, because it's your daughter, because it's all these different pieces, it harkens back to what we first started with, the wrestling figures. It's the different figures in the arena and going, how is this all going to play together so that we end up where we want to end up, right?
How cool is that though, man? Like I was controlling. It's really cool. It was just an amazing experience. Like I was actively controlling what the illustrations were going to look like based on the wording in the book, um, and figuring that all out, kind of like honestly on the fly. And then the output was another a cool, pretty cool published book with that my friends and family and parents are reading to their children and it's on their kids' shelves. That touches my heart. That's pretty cool in my eyes.
Yeah. Yeah. Is there anything that you are thinking now, okay, I've had these experiences, I've done these things, I've written this book, a children's book, that is a next that you're thinking like, here's something I would love to do that I haven't done yet, that I have my eye on?
Yeah, it all revolves around helping people. Even this children's book, it's there to help because everything goes to help other people, right? Offer your services to help others. Um, so establishing a charity, that's something that's I got a bunch of goals that are in process, that I wanna tackle. Those are things that I have to, as other things get completed, I tackle the other like goals that I have.
Yeah. Yeah. It's this continued evolution, I think, through life where as you're growing and changing as a person, and as you level up in your skill set and your experiences influence, you need to engage with that as you're engaging with yourself. So you create more things out of those experiences and you offer more things to the world to be able to help and to give value and perhaps guidance for someone else who is coming up behind you or around you. Those are the things that I think make life sweeter, because knowing you can have a hand in creating that stuff. I mean, there's nothing better than that, right?
No, absolutely, and keeping the things that are paramount and very important to me at the top. That's one of the things. Like my daughter's is the most important thing for me. So like making sure that she's raised right and I'm a good role model for her and being that support channel that she could always have is really important. So doing it right because she's here, she's seeing it all, and I want to make sure that she has a very prosperous life, a very fulfilling life, similar to how my life and journey has been.
Yeah. Yeah. Love it. Love it. Well, it's been an amazing conversation. And I just thank you so much for your time today, Shazad. And as we kind of wrap things up, where can people find the books? Just one more give us again the titles and then where we can find them.
Yeah, no, great question. Coming right now to you, left a little bit for a second. So here's what the books look like. Like when we talk about completely different sides of the spectrum,
Yeah.
look at the darker, right? Like one
Yeah.
here, one is my daughter's trying to find cookies because someone stole our cookies. So Amazon, you could find them on Amazon. But if you want a copy and you want to reach out to me and you want a personal copy that I will personally sign and mail to you with same price point as Amazon, I will mail them to you. So you could contact me on LinkedIn. Look, I'm willing to give my phone number out to people. No,
Well, I'll put your LinkedIn link in the show notes so people can easily contact you there.
Mike, I'll give you that for my personal email as well. So if they want to contact me there as well, they can. I mean, nowadays you could find anybody, right? If you really
Sure.
want.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're published on Amazon. So if you do want to go that route and not that personal route, you could get them up.
Awesome. Great. Well, I highly encourage that anyone who's listening right now to be sure to check out your books and to just get a copy. And especially, if there are kids in your life, there's nothing like a children's book to come around and to read together, to experience together, to make some new memories. And I know that those would be special moments. So again, I want to thank you for our time today and just wish you all the best and continued success in all the projects that you have happening. And as you show up to go, I want to serve, I want to help. That's a tremendous light for this world that we need. So thank you for that.
Well, you're welcome, Mike. And thank you for having me on your show. This was a great experience. I thought it was a really, really touching conversation. So thank you for asking all the thought-provoking questions. I had a great time. Thank you.
All the best.
All the best, Mike.
Thanks for listening today. I'd appreciate it if you would subscribe, leave a rating and a review. It really helps this podcast be seen and heard by others.